Hey y'all, it's Kobe R. Rice, and I'm back again for another weekly creative update. So, I was supposed to come to you guys last Monday and give you guys an update on what I've been doing, but unfortunately, we had colds and sore throats and runny noses coming through the house, so I had to handle that with me and my kid. So, I didn't have time to do all of that, although there is so much to report. And now I'm back today. So welcome to episode number 88 of the, what is the name of my podcast? Why can't I ever remember the name of my stupid podcast? Anyway, welcome back to the epic, fantastical journey of a Black female sci-fi writer. My name is Kobe R. Rice, novelist, filmmaker, game designer, narrative designer. What else do I do? Dramaturg. I guess I'm finally accepting that title, etc., etc. And I am back to give you guys the nitty and gritty of what I've been doing for the past, I think, 2 weeks. It's been 2.3 weeks that I've been gone. First major announcement, and you see me kind of sort of waving this around. I am officially finished with a really amazing boss kick-ass draft of the next book in the Books of Ezekiel series. I am so excited. I cannot explain to you how excited I am. Love it. This is what I've been working on mainly for the past 2 weeks, just getting these last 10 to 15,000 words out. Now, it's interesting, too, just to kind of get a little bit philosophical, I suppose. It's interesting how many words I've written this year versus how many words I will be publishing. And looking over the course of my entire year, I've written, I would probably say, close to 200,000 words, but I'm actually only publishing about half of those words. So it really put a lot into perspective. And the half that I'm publishing is actually this novel, which is around 78,000 words, which is a little over 300 pages, according to my formatting software. And then, as you guys remember earlier this year, at the halfway point of the year, I published a novella, I think it was about 20,000 words, called The Camille. And actually, I sort of am going to rebrand and reboot and rename that once all the other episodes of that series are out. But together, that's only about 100,000 words, a little under 100,000 words that I'm actually publishing, when in fact, I actually wrote over 200 plus thousand words this year, which to me, I still want to improve on how many words I'm writing. I would love to get at least, let's say, 500 words per day at the minimum, 1,000 to 3,000 words maximum per day. But I'm working on it. Okay, so we're gonna just take our time with that. So I would like to increase my word output and my word count per day. But yet and still, I have to, and I actually want to direct this to you guys as well. I think it's really important to understand that not everything we do as artists is going to make it into one particular intellectual property. Not everything that we work on or write or create is going to be ready for publication. But the time and effort and energy that you're putting into creating that piece of work is so impactful and so important. And I don't want you guys to not undercount, but to miscount, or I guess undercount or discount. Yeah, I don't want you guys to discount the amount of time and effort it takes to produce work and produce art. And just because it's not published or produced or like finished doesn't mean that the effort and time you put into it is not valid and valuable. Of course, at certain points in time, because you guys know that I'm about process as well as product, I do think it's important to get product out there, but everything that you do is a part of the process. And one part of the process that doesn't make it into this product, it'll make it into the next product. And so having said that, among the 200,000 words that I wrote, minus the 100,000 words that I've published, there's still another 100,000 plus words just out there, in addition to all the other hundreds of thousands of words I've written for this series, for other series, that will eventually come to the surface when it is time. And so that's like one of the major sort of lessons that I've learned. In addition to the fact that, yes, I have faith in myself, I can finish novels. And not that, I mean, this is something I shouldn't even be wondering about, obviously, because, you know, I finished 2 novels and a novella and have written, you know, a mini musical and directed like multiple pieces this year. Like, I can clearly finish projects. I finished out multiple classes, multiple portfolios for my dramaturgy program. Like, I can finish projects. I don't know why I'm so doubtful of myself sometimes, of my ability to finish my novels, but I think that's because I care about them the most and I'm a perfectionist. So I'm trying to like let that go and just let myself breathe. But I proved to myself once again, back to the point, that I can finish and deliver a novel. And this will be edited and delivered by the end of this month. I wanted to have it out by December 20th, which is in 2 days, but it's just not really possible if I really want the best product that I can put out there. I feel like this is already really good. I'm really proud of this, but there's just a certain editing process that I would like to take my manuscript through, and it just doesn't feel good to me to not take it through that 8-step process that I trust in and I've developed for myself so well. So that will be coming out, hopefully, I would say look for it anytime between December 29th to 31st, probably December 30th, honestly, because it's a Monday. It'll be like a nice little surprise for all of my readers who don't follow my podcast. I'll send out the actual blast on Monday, and I would have avoided the Christmas rush by then. So that's really great and really exciting. This particular novel, as you guys know, was called Hollow Point. But because I've distilled this novel down, again, to the 78,000 word mark, I don't necessarily get to the point yet where it makes sense to name this particular novel Hollow Point. When I get to the novel after the next novel, that novel will probably be named Hollow Point. But thematically, it doesn't make much sense to name this one Hollow Point. So I'm currently thinking of a new title for this installment of the Books of Ezekiel series, and it's probably going to be called The Lock-In, to be really honest with you. That's the overarching theme of what's happening here, and I'm not going to spoil what goes on in the book, and I'm not going to spoil what came in the last 2 books, but if you guys are following the series, you will know what the lock-in means, okay? So I'm so excited. I mean, this manuscript is like so freaking action-packed. And I think that I write in a slightly faster pace than I usually write. So we'll see how that works. And we'll see, you know, really we'll see how this novel does. I'm really excited. But in the meantime, while I'm editing it, I have to get yet another cover commissioned, a new one with new artwork and things like that. But I am so excited, and this will be out. I am aiming for December 30th, early Monday, and the print version will probably be out, I mean, pretty soon after that, honestly. It takes Amazon a little bit of time to, get all that together after you're done putting your novel together in KDP. I forget what they call themselves now, KDP Print, because Create Space is no more. But that will be available, and I've already contracted my narrator to do an audiobook version, and I'm so excited. I'm really excited to hear what he's gonna cook up for this particular installment, because his work was so excellent for my first 2 audiobooks, for my first 2 books, and I've added a new character, and I'm just excited to see what kind of artistic choices he brings to the table, because I just love him. He's so talented and amazing. So Michael, if you're watching this or listening to this, I love you. You're the best. Okay, so aside from that major piece of news, which took about 10 minutes to deliver, okay, what else has been going on in the past couple weeks? So for marketing, I have been doing just like some maintenance for Rebel Ragdoll as a brand through my domain names, making sure those are on point, cleaning up the pages, etc. But then I've also been engaging in some marketing for the Urban Fantasy USA Today Bestseller List endeavor that I'm a part of. There is a lot that we have to do marketing wise. There are about 33 of us, I think, who are a part of this series. And we are aiming for the USA Today bestsellers list. And so there are a million different marketing things that we're trying to put together and just get ready to do. And I am a part of the cross promotion and review team because I am very good at getting reviews, advanced reader reviews on my work when I put it out there. So, we're heading that up, and we're just trying to make it big. I'm not, and this is not me trying to, I'm not putting any negativity out into the universe, but I have been following, endeavors of other people who run box sets and try to get on the USA Today bestsellers list. It is very difficult. And so if they're not able to achieve that, I'm not criticizing them. It's a hard thing to do. But it seems as though it's becoming more and more difficult as time goes on to make these endeavors work. So I'm really looking forward to, in 2019, putting in all of my steam, all of my heart, all of my soul into marketing this box set so that we can make the bestsellers list. It's not going to do anything insane for my career per se, but it is a feather in a cap that I do want for myself, to make that list as an independently published author in consort with other independently published authors. That's really powerful. And, for some people, they don't think making a list with the box set is really that big of a deal. But if you think about how hard it is to get on a list with just one book, imagine how hard it is to get on a list with 33 books at one time. I mean, that's a massive feat. So anybody who wants to poo-poo or naysay, y'all need to sit down, because people have a problem with just one solo piece of work getting on the list, and we have to put 26 to 30 books on the list at the same time. So this is a big effort. And to be really honest, I'm probably going to also spend some money myself on ad spends and things like that, so that, we're literally aiming for a certain number of sales on each single market. So that's just my personal plan. I'm gearing up for that. But that's what's been going on for marketing this past couple weeks. Then we have a lot of world building and plotting. So a lot of that plotting, most of that plotting stuff actually was for the sake of the novel, my Books of Ezekiel novel. But some of it actually was focused on the soul. I'm about to give away the title of my book. Was focused on the book that my colleague and I are co-writing for the box set, right? So that's actually been really exciting too, because as I reported to you guys last time, or a few podcasts ago, I had built out the world and the characters and the storyline at first, and then I snatched it away because it was too much in my world and it was too focused in other things. Too focused on my brand, Actually, guys, hold on a second. I just want to make sure that all these programs are closed because my camera is skipping. Okay. When it skips, that means that the memory's messed up and I just don't want to have to record this again. Okay. So I did a lot of plotting, world building, and outlining for that novel that we're co-writing, because, again, I had basically taken the world that I had previously made for this book. I decided that I didn't want to use that world. I wanted to keep it within my franchise, under my name, under my rights. And I wanted something that my colleague and I could co-write and co-create together. And honestly, I feel, even though I love both of the concepts equally, I feel so much more comfortable and so much happier, basically looking at what we have put together right now for our novel. The novel is going to be fire. I'm so excited because we're both writing a character each. And it just sort of happened naturally that these characters are so diametrically opposed, but they're forced to work together. It is literal magic, and I cannot wait. Okay, like the main character I'm writing is actually a lot like me, really chipper, really upbeat, really like tee hee, not really aware of the danger that they're in, etc. And the other character is like stone cold killer. It's just so cute. And it takes sort of like a tried and true trope and really twist it in a great way and puts it in a really interesting world. And so we just decided on what our concept was going to be, what the premise and the plot and the conflict was going to be for this novel. And I'm just really excited to continue plotting that out. And that is something that we'll be working on from now until 2019. The book itself, I believe, is due around May or June. And then we launch our box set in July. So so that's really exciting. And I can't wait to keep doing it. But that's part of what I've been doing in terms of world building and plotting and stuff like that. Okay, what else? In addition to working on the plot for this book, which I'm just going to call the lock-in because that's probably what it's going to be named. But in addition to working on the lock-in novel, I had to sort of step back and work on the general timeline for the Books of Ezekiel series. And that's something that you guys are going to have to really dig into. Just if you're a fantasy, sci-fi, dystopian, cyberpunk novelist, anytime, or even if you're just like a literary novelist or a thriller or whatever, it actually doesn't really matter what genre it is. But this is especially true in sci-fi and fantasy. The timeline is everything. I mean, first of all, and I'll write a blog post on the Bohemian Badass about time in the novel. Before I sit down and I write anything, usually, in a perfect process, I try my best to sit down and figure out how much time this is going to take. Like across how many days or across how many weeks or months or years is this novel going to unfold, take place, etc. Does this novel take place in a single day? Does this novel take place over the course of 10 years? I mean, that's the first thing. So the lock-in, this is just a day. Just one day of just 4-character, high-octane action, nonstop twists and turns. Like, that's just what it is. And, some of my favorite books are like that. But then there are other books, like the Game of Thrones series, for example, that take place over the series of weeks, months, and years. So after you sort of decide what the time frame of your novel is going to be, you need to double check and make sure that it fits into the timeline that you've created for the entire series itself, right? Because if you're writing a series, especially if it's serialized like Game of Thrones or Harry Potter or whatever, you need to be able to keep track of what's happening when. Harry Potter was actually pretty easy because each book took place over the course of a year, and the entire series took place over the course of 7 years, following Harry from age 11 to when he was adult, age 18. Boom. And so having that timeline in mind is super important. This is something that actually got tripped up on a lot when I was writing my first draft of this novel, because there were certain things that I was writing that I was really excited about, obviously, but then one character's storyline logically would have taken longer to unfold than, like, say, another character's storyline, which might have taken like a month or a week to unfold. So I had to really sit down and figure out, okay, let's first decide how much time is passing between page 1 and the end, and then that is the time span of the events that we will cover. So that was a big help in actually getting me to finish this novel, because literally just not even 3 weeks ago, the novel was about 150,000 words and still going. And once I decided this is taking place over the course of the day, the next day after a massive event, then things started to fall into place more clearly. But like I said, I'll write a blog post on that and get back to you guys. But I did work on that as a part of my overall world building, really understanding how the world of the Books of Ezekiel has unfolded and what's happened. And I already have a really amazing timeline because literally the history of this entire world spans about 300 years. I mean, in my novel series, alchemy is first discovered in secret literally in I think it's the early 1900s or something like that. And now we're into 2155 basically. So yeah, that's what I was doing. Moving on before I take up too much time. Graduate school. All right. So, as you guys know, I have pretty much 4 main responsibilities in graduate school: classes, teaching, master's thesis, and now my master's report. So, classes and teaching. Let's see. The last time, what's today's date? I'm recording this on Tuesday, December 18th, but I'm posting it as though I finished this on the 17th yesterday. Because I'm trifling like that. So just give me a break, okay? So the last time I actually posted a podcast was on Monday, December 3rd. And I was not finished with my classes or my teaching or anything like that at that point. So a lot of stuff has happened. Classes have officially wrapped, got all A's as I expected to get. In my experimental dramaturgy class, I created a really amazing experimental portfolio / casebook on Father Comes Home from the Wars, which I know was kick-ass and badass and got a really great grade, and he was really impressed, and that's great. That's all great, but the most important thing is that I really thought I did an excellent job. So that wrapped up really, really nicely. Finished out all of my grading, my office hours and things like that, dealing with, this year just generally, and I'm starting to notice this more and more with students. My students are becoming a little bit more manic just overall about their grades, but I don't know if this is a university-wide thing or what. It sort of seems like it is, and I have to say, I don't see people being manic in a healthy way. I am trying to gain as much knowledge as possible and become a more intellectually rigorous person. It's more about how can I negotiate and haggle and finagle my grades so I can get the grade that I think I deserve by the end of the semester without having put in the work that was required. And that's a whole nother podcast, honestly. When I'll reserve that for my actual graduate school reflections podcast, or an episode on that. But I understand why there's this attitude, because I don't think in this country we communicate that we actually care about our kids' education. We've turned education at all levels into a capitalist money-making racket that is basically not really helpful to anyone except for those who own the institutions. And I think kids are starting to realize that the degree that they're getting at university levels probably not going to be the same field in which they'll be working. They'll probably graduate with a whole lot of debt, and they're trying to get something out of it, something for nothing, just like everybody else is trying to get out of it. So I don't entirely blame these particular students for trying to haggle their grades, because they're constantly being haggled by the larger system that's oppressing them. At the same time, it still kind of pisses me off. And my thing is that, you don't have to, grades are important, but unless you're going to graduate school where grades actually count, or law school or medical school, unless you're going for an advanced degree, haggling me for an A is not going to impress me, and it's not going to make me change the grade. You have to earn it, And so I was dealing with a lot of that in my last week, which was really, really frustrating, but that's a side note. Aside from that, teaching wrapped up just fine. But then I had my portfolio review. And in that particular portfolio review, usually we bring a piece of dramaturgy or a project that we've worked on that we're really proud of, that reflects our growth. But this time we were reporting on our master's thesis progress. And so basically, I told the committee where I was in that process. And thankfully, just another update, I finished reading all 4 of the plays. Antony and Cleopatra was just insanely long. I don't know why. It just was. I don't know why he wrote it that long. It was just long. But I came up with sort of an evolution from my master's thesis that I'm really proud of now that I've finished the phase 1 of doing the work. And basically, my master's project is twofold because it's just changed. I will be adapting the 4 plays, but they will be adapted into a 1 season, 8 episode mini series for television, wherein the time and the place and the space of these plays is all compressed into one time period, but the different characters and the different families and clans are still very much like who they are. But the plays will be put in conversation with one another in a way that perhaps hasn't been done yet. Julius Caesar and Antony and Cleopatra are the 2 plays out of the 4 that actually have the tightest continuity between them. Clearly, Julius Caesar was a prequel to Antony and Cleopatra. Julius Caesar set up a lot of cliffhangers and a lot of foreshadowing, and then Antony and Cleopatra essentially delivered hardcore on all the foreshadowing that was in Julius Caesar. It doesn't cover the entire period of the entire sort of historicity of that saga because they left out Cleopatra's relationship with Julius Caesar. However, that is something that I am definitely going to rectify in my TV miniseries adaptation of these 4 works. So the dramaturgical project of the thesis is going to be the actual pilot episode of this TV miniseries. And it's going to be the other part of it's going to be a dramaturgical protocol / case book combined with a TV Bible, right? So for those of you who don't really know what a TV Bible is, it's basically a rundown of all your characters, the time, the place, the premise of the series, the conflict of the series, the theme of the series. Basically, it's where you lay out your entire series. And it's where you do your world building essentially. So that's going to be the TV Bible portion of it. But then the dramaturgical casebook part of it is going to be about the research I've done, the actual historical events and other sort of things that I'm interested in looking at in order to develop and adapt this series. And it's also going to be sort of a justification, not saying I have to justify my choices, but when you are a dramaturg completing an adaptation, let's say a dramaturg, director, writer, completing an adaptation of a very well-known piece of work, and you decide to diverge in many crazy ways from the original source material, not only should you try to do that in the most unique and interesting and compelling way possible, but you should also have an actual rationale as to how you're doing it and why. And there's sort of 3 kinds of adaptation. There's transmission, translation, and I think transformation. And I got that from my advisor, and I'm probably misquoting her, but her thesis was actually about the nature of adaptation, and she came up with this amazing theory about how there are essentially 3 kinds of adaptations that you can do as an artist if you're borrowing from source material. Transmission is that you're literally taking the actual events, actual dialogue, actual characters, and transmitting every single factual part of that story to just a replication of that story, right? And that also includes like some language translations. Like if I wanted to translate Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet into actual French, and I did that directly and accurately, then that will be considered transmission. Translation is a sort of a rough translation of the adaptation. It's not a direct word for word, character for character translation, but it's close enough. And then transformation is more of when you get into riff and remix territory, where you're taking source material but then going off in some slightly different or even completely different directions as to how you're adapting a piece of material. And I'm definitely engaging with the third kind of adaptation method, which is transformation. And there are many ways in which transformation is going to come through in this TV miniseries, and that the dramaturgical protocol that has to be a part of our master's thesis needs to have my rationale for that kind of adaptation in there. And there's a lot to be done. It's not just about compressing time, space, and place and character, but there are decisions to make. Cutting the cutting of texts is going to be really important, because unlike in Shakespeare's day, where all the action happened off stage and characters had to stand there and explain what was happening off stage, for a TV show, you can actually show a massive battle scene or a fight sequence. So how do you take, for example, Antony's description of Cleopatra's ships fleeing? How do you take that from a stage monologue and translate that into an actual scene for television? Those are decisions that I have to make as I'm putting together this TV Bible, casebook protocol, and the pilot. And I have to have a rationale for that. So there are parts of this, not even parts, but the entire project is a dramaturgical adaptation project, but I'm taking my skills from TV and film and from theater and dramaturgy and combining them together into one. So it's really exciting. I've gotten the go ahead thus far from the rest of the committee. I'm waiting for a go ahead from my advisor, so you guys will get more updates on that come January, but I'm excited as to how that went, and we're just chugging forward, and it's great. For my master's report in and of itself, basically, what I have to do is study the programming of a theater that engages in classical, canonical works like Shakespeare, Ibsen. What else do they play on that stage? Tartuffe, Christopher Marlowe, all those sort of old school dead white guys. I have to take their programming and create a new 6-show season. That is an adaptation season. And the adaptation season has to be based on the classical works that they're interested in, and also just do something different. So basically I have to choose 6 plays that I think that the theater should put on, write up a pitch for how each of these plays need to be adapted. And this includes not only diversity in the manner of adaptation, but diversity in the actual bodies and cultural references that are and cultural sort of resonances that are in our society that need to be seen in these works. I have to do all of that and put together an entire season. So right now I'm really excited. I have done, or I've conceptualized at least a third of the season. And I'm not even going to tell you guys. I'm going to pitch it to you guys on a podcast after it's actually finished and done, which should be about mid-January. But I'm really excited about this season that I'm putting together. We're going to have some Shakespeare. We're going to have some Moliere. I meant to say Moliere, not Tartuffe. Moliere wrote Tartuffe. We're going to have some Moliere. We're going to have some other old dead white guys who wrote some stuff. And we're going to really make these classical works into something contemporaneous and relevant and resonant with our more diverse communities. And I'm really excited about it. So that's my master's report. At first, I have to say I wasn't jazzed about it per se, but that's because I'm a spoiled brat. It's not because the report is bad. It's just because I wanted something like make a documentary or something like that, because I'm spoiled, even though this is a theater program. But it's actually a really great project, and I'm really excited. And it's going to be a really great piece to go into my portfolio to show how I, as a dramaturg, or even as a potential artistic director, can take a classical work, update it, or put some pizzazz in it, make it relevant to diverse communities, and make it relevant to contemporary times. It's going to be able to, I can demonstrate how I can do all that through this portfolio. So I'm pretty amped about that. All right. Anyways, so of course, though, because I've been working on this novel the entire time, I've had to shelve my master's report for the past week. But I have before I finished the novel, I did finish phase 1 of studying this classical theater, which is actually called the Classical Stage Center, Classic Stage Theater, I believe it's called. I should actually look it up and actually like see what this theater is called. I know the theater well because I've studied it for the past week and a half, 2 weeks, but I forget the name, which is kind of cray-cray. But now that my novel is finished and all I have to do is edit, I will be basically switching gears again and getting back on my master's report. But I have finished the first part of that research, and a part of that phase 1 basically included me researching all the productions they've ever had since I believe like 1967, making a spreadsheet, and then just putting all the information in, what plays that they've produced, what years they were produced, who directed them, who wrote them, who adapted them, if they were adaptations, if there were any special featured actors or writers or whatever, if they were co-productions. And now that I have all that information in front of me, and I think that they've produced over 240 shows in their times of being like around, now I can sort of look and figure out like what the DNA of the theater is precisely, and continue to construct a 6-show season from there that is diverse and adapted, which apparently is going to be my wheelhouse as a dramaturg, which is exciting. Okay, let's move along. So that's been graduate school, and it's actually been like pretty nice to wrap that up. And it's actually really nice to only have one class next semester plus my master's thesis. That feels really good. And then, as I said to you guys before, next semester is going to be even more on fleek, because at least for the first half of the semester, the class that I'm TAing for is all online. So I don't even have to report to campus, y'all, if I don't want to TA for and assist with this class. So I'm just really excited about how next semester is lining up, and we're moving along. Okay. Throughout this week, I also sat more of Spike Lee's independent filmmaking class and Mira Nair's independent filmmaking class. I foresee myself finishing both classes before the end of the month, which is going to be exciting. And I was going to try to stick Werner Herzog in there, but I decided not to shove him in because I really wanted time to really just sit down and absorb the lessons and not feel like I have to rush through material just to say I completed it. But I actually wanted to sit down and just, like deal with the material and let the material wash over me. And so I'm really excited to kind of just like take it step by step and really hear what these artists have to say, because they're amazing, and I'm really impressed with their master classes that they are putting on masterclass.com. On top of that, I realized that you can't cram a lifelong process into a particular timeline. Like, you can go to school and join certain programs like a BA program in philosophy, or go get a medical degree, which is a 4-year endeavor, or you can go to law school, which is usually a 3-year endeavor, or master's programs, which take 2 to 3 years, or even PhD programs, which take about, 3 to 10 years, depending on how long you want to be there. There are certain programs that do have timelines, but if you're a lifelong learner, there's no reason for you to cram your learning into a single cross-section of your life, unless you have installed some personal deadlines and you need to learn something before you can go shoot your film, and you want to shoot your film by a certain date. That's fine. But I guess this sort of hit me when on masterclass.com, I got 3 emails from masterclass.com, basically giving us a sneak peek of who was going to be teaching online classes there in 2019. And lo and behold, Timbaland is going to be teaching music production or something like that. They didn't tell us the names of the actual classes. They just tell us the teachers. But we know what they do, right? So Timbaland is a really famous, really talented music producer. So we're going to learn something in that wheelhouse. Then we have Natalie Portman coming on to teach some aspect of acting. And then we're having Jodie Foster come in teaching about, and she teaches her process of being a filmmaker. And I mean, I just realized that like they're going to keep adding screenwriters and TV writers and filmmakers and music producers until they can't add any more, right? And there's no point in trying to, for example, rush through a Werner Herzog course just to say I'm done when they're just going to keep adding filmmakers anyway. Like, why not just pace myself, right? And so that's sort of, I'm trying to get that attitude to diffuse into the rest of my life, in terms of I still want to consume and synthesize material at a steady clip. I don't want to languish per se, but I also am trying not to cram. It's not cram school. This is the school of life, and you just learn day by day, bit by bit. So that's how I'm rolling right now. The last major thing, and I'm actually going to end it after this because that's basically all I have to say, is that now that school is out, this has been a really great time for me to kick up my self-care. And it's something that I was very, very good at for this past summer. I was excellent at my self-care all the way up to the end of August, even up to like the end of September. Because at that point, I didn't have as many responsibilities over my head. And then in October and November, that kind of fell off and fell just on its face. So I knew that when school was over in early December, I wanted to get back to that. And I have definitely gotten back to that. And, that means sleeping more or trying to, making an honest effort to just get a good night's sleep, cooking at home, eating healthily, not eating out as much and treating eating out as a treat, which is what I love to eat out, but I don't need to eat out, so I'm trying to just like manage that. And getting exercise, not just staying active, which I actually was pretty good at staying active during the school year, but I like to stay active and have focused cardio and focused weight training. I do enjoy, well, I don't enjoy it all the time, but but I enjoy the feeling of taking care of my body. Let's put it that way. I might not enjoy the exercise, but taking care of my body, I enjoy. And so I'm just glad to have gotten back to that. I haven't backslid as far as I know in terms of my goals for health. I keep seeing improvements every single day, and I am going to keep going until I am consistently and just constantly living, eating, breathing the lifestyle and the healthy perspective that I want to become a part of my life for literally the rest of my life until I die. And this self-care thing is not just about health or aesthetics. It's just about also being here and being present and being around to be a mother, being around long enough for me to create a legacy and build my business the way I need to build it, to be around long enough to spend time with my family and enjoy that. Our time on this earth is not really that long. And so we have to make good use of it, and we have to live and care about ourselves and value and cherish ourselves and our time and people that we love. And a part of how I do that is trying my best to stay healthy. I can't control everything. I can't control, if there's a chronic illnesses or terminal diseases. I can't control what's going to happen to me in that way, but I can do my very best to make sure that I'm doing everything that I can to keep myself in the black in a good way. If I'm shoving junk food and stuff down my throat and I'm a couch potato, I'm not really helping my body to avoid all of those potential dangerous diseases. I'm actually weakening it. And so I'm just trying to keep that in the forefront of my mind. That self-care is paramount. That includes mental and emotional self-care. And that's important. That includes spiritual self-care for those of you who are spiritual. And I'm going to just keep doing that. And hopefully if I keep doing that, I'll be able to keep producing stuff like this. So I'm so excited. This year has been a really incredible, amazing year. Honestly, 2017 and 2018 have been the most not only profitable years, and I say profitable financially, relatively, I'm not rich, but in terms of like me building an income on my business, have been the most profitable years, have been the most rewarding years. And aside from year 2013, have honestly been the most productive years. If you're looking at like things learned and things done in my output, for sure. I mean, one could argue that 2014 and 2015 were more emotionally productive in terms of like me being a mother, a stay-at-home mom, and was more like productive on a familial level, sure. But in terms of my career and things like that, 2018 and 2017, for that matter, have really just been on point. And I'm just looking forward to 2019. I think it's going to be a really explosive, amazing year. That in 2020, I feel really, really good about. And I just can't wait. I can't wait to sort of finish getting all my goals together, all of my milestones for this year and for next year, and sharing all that with you in my quadrimestrally update, my yearly update on my creative achievements, and then look forward into the future with the goals that I have for 2019. So stay tuned. That should actually be coming up not next Monday, but the Monday after. I will be back next Monday, crossing my fingers, to wish you guys a very Merry Christmas, because you guys know it's Christmas Eve, and also to update you on what I've been doing this week. So stay tuned for that. And as always, keep it indie, stay badass, keep creating, and I will talk to you guys next week. Mwah. Bye.